What is going on, people? It's your boy Joey Talks Boxing. I'm back by popular demand. This is where it all started, baby. This is where I made that Mike Tyson video. That's probably my favorite video I made. I wanted to talk about the heavyweight division, and I made a list a while back of the top 10 greatest heavyweights of all time. I had a playlist for that, but now I'm going to do my top 30 greatest heavyweights of all time. And some of the spots of the top 10 have changed because of what's happened since then, but also my knowledge of the fight game has expanded and my knowledge of the history has expanded. So I'm going to do a top 30 video, but I'm going to count down from 30 to 1. I'm going to give reasonings for why each person's where they are. And we'll do 5 in each set because it would just be too long. So on this video, I'm going to do 30 to 26. And then I'm going to do 25 to 21, and then so on and so on. So we start with number 30, greatest heavyweights of all time. Now, what I use to make this list is mainly resume and accomplishments, your fighting ability, how good you were at your peak, those kind of things. But it's mainly a resume and accomplishment thing. Head-to-head is a factor, but it's not the primary factor because you can't compare a guy 100 years ago to a guy now. I don't think that's fair. The game has evolved a lot. The sizes of the heavyweights are different. The nutrition is different. The training is different. It wouldn't be fair to just say, oh, well, a guy from 1900 can't beat a guy from 2026. That's not the way we rank over here. I give my reasonings and, leave your comments if you agree or don't agree. So I'm going to start with number 30. Number 30 is Alexander Povetkin. Now, he was a very consistent heavyweight. From 2007 to 2020, for 14 straight years, he was in the top 10 of Ring Magazine every single year. So that shows you he was a quality heavyweight that had a lot of longevity. And that means a lot to me because a lot of guys can be, good for a year or two and then they fall off. To have that kind of sustainability shows you were legit very good heavyweight. Very well schooled, was an Olympic gold medalist in 2004. Very good in pretty much every category. But I would say he didn't have that one standout category that would make him a great champion. Instead, he was just a very good fighter for a very long time because of that reason. And usually when you're going to be a long-range champion, you got to have at least one quality that I look at and I say, oh, that was great. He didn't have great power. He had respectable power. He had very good boxing ability, but it was an amazing defense and technique. Good chin. Not great until he got with, alleged PED use. That's another thing that we're going to touch on in a second. And in his two biggest fights, the Klitschko fight and the Joshua fight, albeit the Joshua fight was a little bit past his prime, he really wasn't, anywhere near them. I mean, Klitschko dropped him 4 times. The fight wasn't close. Joshua knocked him out. So when he fought the best, the elite, he was clearly a level below. So that's why I have him at only 30. Also, the PED use, I think, is something that I think kind of hurts him a little bit in my rankings. A very good heavyweight, but was lacking that one major quality. But he had a lot of good wins. He beat Chagayev. He beat Huck. He beat a lot of guys. Like, you really look back. Dylan White at the end of his career. John Ruiz at that point wasn't really anything, but, Chris Bird. Yeah, he had a lot of, solid wins. So I respect that. I respect his longevity. Number 29 is Jack Sharkey. Similar to Povetkin, he was in the top 10 of the Ring Magazine, I want to say for 11 or 12 years. But to me, that's more impressive to do that in the 20s and the 30s than now, because fighters back then, they didn't have the longevity that they have now. They didn't have these long careers. They didn't have the modern day medicine. So I respect that about Sharkey. But like Povetkin, when Sharkey fought the elites, Jack Dempsey and Joe Louis, he got stopped both times. Now, I know Joe Louis was past his prime, but still, he got stopped when he fought the elites. He got DQ'd versus Max Schmeling to lose the title, for the vacant title in 1930. And he did beat, Schmeling in the rematch, but most people felt he lost that fight for the title. And then he got knocked out by Primo Canaro, who's not really championship quality. So it's one of those things where I kind of look at him as like a good fighter for a long time, but not really a champion. He did beat, now it should be noted, he did beat Primo Canaro years earlier. But he was the guy who stuck around, beat a lot of good guys. He beat Harry Willis, which was rare in those days for, you know, the white fighters who were contenders to fight the black, you know, contenders, or, you know, the best black fighter, you know, champions of that era, because there was a color line. And they didn't get the title shots back then. So I kind of look at that and I say, you know what? He belongs number 29. I'll put him ahead of Povetkin also with the no PD thing. Number 28, I got Floyd Patterson. Now, a lot of people hear this and say, how is he only 28? He was champion, this and that. I kind of think Floyd Patterson is a little historically overrated. I think his inability to take a punch is something that you can't ignore. I don't think he would be a long-range champion in any era. He won the title versus old Archie Moore. But, you know, Archie Moore was at the end of his career, really, and they only became vacant the title because Rocky Marciano retired from boxing young. Well, he wasn't young, but very few fights unexpectedly. So Patterson was kind of like not really a true champion in my mind. And then he was like fighting people that were making their pro debuts. He was like ducking Sonny Liston for a while due to the orders of Custamato. And he got upset by his mandatory Ignomar Johansson, who's not a great heavyweight. To his credit, he did beat Johansson twice after that by KO, so he made up for his loss. He got pretty outclassed by Ali, and he stuck around and was in like a lot of good close fights that could have gone either way. The fights with Jerry Quarry, you know, he beat Eddie Machin. He, I think Bono Vita he beat late in his career. He had a fight with Jimmy Ellis that was disputed, so he was still a good heavyweight for a long time. He showed a lot of heart, that he was able to keep bouncing back. And what I like about Floyd Patterson, he was the people's champion, Floyd Patterson. He was a guy who people, they looked at and they're like, ooh, we like this guy. He's a cool guy. He was down to earth. He was cool. And he was really a guy, like I would say Anthony Joshua now, where people just like him as a person. And regardless of if they win or lose, people respect them because of the way they conduct themselves. But I can't ignore his inability to take a punch. He got completely destroyed by Sonny Liston twice when he did fight him eventually. I don't think he'd be a long-range champion in any era. I have respect for him, but I got him number 28 all time. Let me know where you have him. Number 27, I got Ken Norton. Ken Norton is a guy who's very hard to rate because I could see him beating the best like he did when he beat Ali and gave Larry Holmes a great fight. But he also can get knocked out by lower tier opposition. You know, like he did get knocked out by Ernie Shavers, massive puncher, but still not a top heavyweight. Jerry Cooney, massive puncher, not a top heavyweight. I know he was older in the Cooney fight. Foreman flatlined him. He also had a questionable chin. I'm not going to say it was Floyd Patterson level, but it was kind of questionable to the point where I don't think I could put him much higher. He's a difficult opponent to beat. He did beat Ali in the first fight. I thought he should have beat him in the last fight, and I thought the second fight was a draw. He did beat Jimmy Young. It was close. He was a very good heavyweight. He was very tough to beat, but I don't think he'd be a long-range champion in any era, like, you know, Floyd Patterson or Jack Sharkey or Alexander Povetkin. That's what all these guys have in common, that they weren't really able to be long-range champions, but they were very good heavyweights that could have beaten, you know, especially in Norton's case, he could have beaten a lot of the top guys. Whereas that's why I would put him ahead of Patterson, where Patterson, I don't think he could beat as many of the top guys because he has so many deficiencies. But, you know, that really is that. But we move on to 26, which will be the last one of this video. Number 26, Tim Witherspoon. Terrible Tim Witherspoon. Now, a lot of people, they're going to look at this and say, how the heck do you have him so high on the list? But hear me out. Tim Witherspoon had the skill set and the ability to be a long-range champion. He came up in the era where you had Larry Holmes as the champion. He fought Larry Holmes in a 12-round fight. It was a very good fight. Came up a little bit short, but he never got the rematch versus Holmes. But he did beat a lot of very good fighters like Greg Page, Jerry Coetzee, James Tillis, James Smith, Roland Snipes. It was a debatable one. Frank Bruno he beat. He had a lot of very good wins for a while. He did lose to Pinklett Thomas, but Pinklett Thomas was they were probably the two best heavyweights at that time, even though they didn't have the title. And he didn't get the shot against Mike Tyson, where he got upset unexpectedly versus Bone Crusher Smith in a rematch. They had a 3 knockdown rule. He got knocked down 3 times in the first round. Unfortunately, he didn't get to fight Mike Tyson. He kind of gets sandwiched between Larry Holmes and Mike Tyson, but I think if he had come in a different era, let's say like he came, a little bit before the Larry Holmes era, he might have been able to be the champion longer. If he had come, let's say, right after the Lennox Lewis era, he might have been able to be a champion for a longer period of time. And he did maintain a high level of boxing, and even a lot of people thought should have beaten Ray Mercer for, in 1996. That was after Mercer arguably beat Lennox Lewis. I thought Mercer edged out versus Lennox Lewis. Most people did. So I got to put Terrible Tim Witherspoon on 26. Because unlike the previous people, I think he could have actually been a long-range champion. I think he was a more well-rounded fighter. So that's my list from 30 to 26. I got 30, Alexander Povetkin. 29, I got Jack Sharkey. 28, Floyd Patterson. 27, Ken Norton. And 26, Tim Witherspoon. Stay tuned for what's left for the rest of the list. Let me know what you think. Which guy should be in that spot, who should be higher or whatnot. Joey Talks Boxing.